by this point now, myself and this other pastor in particular, but speaking for myself, we're deeply convicted and wanting to do something about this. We can't just have this information and not do anything with it. If there
Mm.
are, in excess of 200,000 children being aborted every year, oh, right under our nose, so to
Yeah.
speak. I just could not live with that reality and not feel I'm doing something about it. So uh, that's sort of how I became more and more convicted and um, engaged with it really as an issue. And wasn't long really. Then I think I did um, a presentation for my church about it. I think this is even before Dave came to Reading. I did a presentation for the church and just at somebody's house. Really it was a sort of an informal seminar type thing, and I walked through some of the information I knew and some of the apologetic stuff, biblical stuff. Um, so I'd done that, and then later in the pandemic, I committed we were online for a little bit of that time, and I committed a whole Sunday morning online to dealing with abortion. And so and you can see that, in fact, on our Christchurch Tyler's YouTube page. It's still on there, thankfully. um, and you could see what I tried to do there, really, in terms of how I tried to present it to my church and talk through the issue as a gospel issue, to
Mm.
bring hope and salvation with it, to hear from other women who'd been affected by, try and give a as balanced and as hopeful presentation, but also, convey the seriousness of it. So, uh, yeah, that was when I was sort of earlier on, really. And then this other pastor and I, and then a few others by now in Reading, have begun meeting and praying about things. Um, we we'd also had CBR help us with. In fact, it was after Dave's visit when he came to do this evening for us. The next day, I believe it was, we went out with some CBR folks with some boards, and we just had a go at doing some street work. We had a bit of training beforehand, and that was really helpful in just introducing us really to what being on the streets could look like. And we had a good time. It was good, challenging, exciting, but good. And from that, we began then a little team sort of formed of pro-lifers here in Reading, and we began going out into the streets ourselves with our own boards and things like that. And probably we're due to go out next week again, but probably every couple of months at least, we would be going out into the town centre, five, six, seven of us, sometimes less actually, but we would similar sort of setup. We'd have a few boards and try to talk to people about the gospel and
Mhm.
also the issue of abortion. So that's kind of what it's looking like now for us as a team here in Reading, and yeah, we're just praying that God keeps us faithful in that as we keep going. But yeah, so that's what it's been like.
Brilliant. Well, I'm really interested to hear more about a pastor's thoughts and take on approaching an issue like abortion in your church. What were the thoughts going through your head? Were you nervous? Were you being persuaded maybe not to talk about this? And then also, what was your church's response? How did
Mm,
they react when you spoke about it, when you shared that the gospel is big enough for this issue?
mm,
And yeah, so I think a lot of pastors are nervous
mm,
about speaking about something like this, not just because it's such a sensitive pastoral issue, but there can be a lot of fallout. There can be a lot of pastoral issues that arise as a result that then have to be dealt with, which creates a lot of work for pastors who are already doing a lot of work. So, can you
mm.
speak into some of these things that someone listening may be thinking, yes, I agree, this is a really important issue, but I just have these concerns that I'm not so sure about.
Yeah, I get it. Yeah, I certainly get it. I think for me, it it starts starts and ends really with our view of Jesus and the gospel. Is is the gospel, is Jesus big enough and great enough and gracious enough that he is able to bring salvation, redemption, hope, transformation, life to this subject of also, if he, can he bring it here? Is this untouchable? Is this
Mm.
beyond what the gospel is able to do and to meet? And I'm thoroughly convinced, as I'm sure you are, Beth, that Jesus is able to save. He's able to change. He's able to transform. We have a God who he's an expert in raising dead things to life. If that's the kind of God we have, then no matter how messy, scary, or dark something might be, we can face it with King Jesus and with great hope and great expectation. So anyway, all that to say that I think it starts there. If you've got a conviction about the greatness of Jesus, then that can give you some courage to face an issue like abortion, which is difficult to talk about, which is incredibly sensitive, which is hugely painful for some people. Um, uh, but I guess I almost feel like that. Well, the more difficult it seems to be, that's all the more reason to go on and face it. Um, Jesus wants to shine the light in the darkest of places, I think. And I think there's nothing darker than something like abortion. I think it's a gospel issue in the sense of it's a symptom of so many other spiritual things, spiritual realities and problems, sins, and so on, that we want the gospel to address. And so it's a prime target, I think, for sharing the good news. So that with that conviction in mind, I think trying then to approach it with that confidence in Jesus. Um, I tried with my particular approach. I was already aware of at least one person in my congregation who had had an abortion. So I first went to them personally and said, "I'm thinking of doing this. I want you to know how you feel," and I just pastorally to get alongside her because that's what we do. We care for people, and so we wanted to get alongside her in particular, uh, and she was supportive, in fact, which was good. Um, there was there was a little bit of pushback, nothing too severe, I have to say. Thankfully, there were some who raised the question why, especially in the middle of a pandemic, like why we like we've got other things we're worried about at the minute, Dan. Why are we talking about this issue? Because I'd given people warning that we were going to be looking at this as well. So that people had, and I even put like a 10-minute video out beforehand, a week or two before, saying, look, this is what we're going to do, and this is why I'm going to do it. Just to give people as much of an understanding of why and the rationale. So that there's a little bit of back and forth. But again, at that time, death was on the news every day, you know, but never the statistics that kind of like of abortion, with hundreds of children every working day,
Mhm.
that was something far darker, far more sinister, far more um, pervasive than something even like COVID was this problem. So again, these were in fact more reasons to address it. I felt anyway. So trying to prepare the congregation, trying to get alongside folks, try to um, be as sensitive as possible. And the way I tried to talk about it was not as I didn't want it necessarily to be to hit people around the head with something, and say, "Come on, you've got to do something about it. Look at how important," but to impress on people that this is a gospel issue, that this is an area of great need for the gospel, um, where but and something God cares about, and so should we. Um, I brought in some testimonies from some women, for example, in that service, and that again to help see, look, this is real people. We're trying to. It's not just this vague, abstract, political,
Yeah.
social issue. This is real people who need our help. So try and pitching it that way. Now, after the fact, that it's difficult in a situation like that when you're doing things online. It was terrible, really, but to get immediate feedback. But I,
Mm.
I I remember the night, late that night after it had gone out, receiving a phone call from somebody I did not expect in my congregation, an older gentleman in my congregation who years before had paid for a girlfriend to have an abortion, years and years and years before, late 60s, so when abortion had just been legalized. And he's in tears on the phone to me because of this, and he's asking, what had happened to this child, and so just having that opportunity to talk to him over the phone and try and comfort him, and reassure him of the grace of God again, and the forgiveness of God, and that the Lord has, yeah, that's an opportunity that came out of it, that I
Mm.
was not expecting. And um, I'm so thankful for that. I'm so thankful that the Lord allowed that opportunity. So this is what you don't know. It's affecting our people. It certainly is affecting our people. And if you are a minister listening to this, perhaps there will be people in your church who this is personally affecting. And as others have said far better than I, if we're not talking about it, that's saying something.
Yeah.
Silence says something. It says, "Oh, this is a taboo. We don't talk about this. This is something Jesus can't deal with." But if we can be courageous and dare to say, to talk about this and say, even this messy, horrible, you don't want to think about it, but Jesus thinks about this, and we're going to talk about it, and we're going to have uh, some opportunity to minister into people's lives around this issue. Um, so I'm thankful for that. We continue to be on a journey as a church, I think, of thinking these things through, and trying to engage people on it in more practical, hands-on sort of ways.
Hmm.
Um, um, Another thing that's coming up recently, isn't it, is the assisted suicide question as well.
Yeah.
And I think that's thrusting life issues into our view again, isn't it? And I think it's something I'm planning on addressing myself again later this year. So these are it's in more and more in the public kind of view, and I think the church needs to be talking about it, absolutely, um, to help our people think about it and think it through biblically, with gospel hope. So I'd strongly encourage the churches, pastors in particular, to engage on this and to teach your people, to minister to your people, to care for your people, and do so with that deep conviction and hope in Jesus being able to transform lives through it and offer forgiveness. That's what it's all about. So